The grand naval hall shimmered under golden lights, filled with the hum of laughter, arrogance, and pride. Top engineers, admirals, and strategists from around the world had gathered for the unveiling of a classified defense system, one that had cost billions to build, and was now completely malfunctioning. On the large screen, red error codes flashed like a heartbeat of failure. The room grew tense. No one dared speak. Then, with a half-smirk, Admiral Hawkins leaned back in his chair and said, "If anyone can fix this mess, I'll personally hand them $100 million. His tone was dripping with mockery, as if daring fate itself. In the corner of the room, unnoticed by most, a janitor named Ethan Cole was quietly mopping the marble floor. He had been a Navy mechanic once, before his wife's passing forced him to raise his little girl, Lily, alone. Life had been hard, but Lily's smile kept him going. She was 10, bright-eyed, curious, and always asking questions about the machines her father once worked on. That day, Ethan had brought Lily along after school because he couldn't find a babysitter. She sat quietly in the corner, swinging her legs, sketching in her notebook as her father worked in the shadows of men who once wore the same uniform as he did. As tension filled the room, Ethan noticed Lily's eyes fixed on the big screen. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "That code looks just like the puzzle game you showed me last night." Ethan smiled faintly, brushing her hair back. "Sweetheart, this one's a little more complicated." But Lily frowned, tilting her head. "What if they just connected the input line to the auxiliary instead of the primary?" "See, this red light means it's looping." Her father froze. His eyes darted to the flashing code again. His hands trembled slightly as he realized she might be right. "Stay here, honey," he murmured, setting his mop aside. As Ethan approached the command station, a few officers chuckled. "Hey, janitor, wrong floor," one sneered. But Ethan didn't flinch. "Just give me 5 minutes," he said calmly. The Admiral raised an eyebrow, amused. "You think you can fix what 20 of my engineers can't?" Ethan simply nodded and began typing, carefully, methodically, guided by the logic his daughter had pointed out. Within moments, the red error lights stopped blinking. The massive screen turned blue. The system reactivated, smooth, stable, perfect. Silence fell. Admiral Hawkins blinked in disbelief. "What the hell did you just do?" Ethan exhaled. "Didn't do much, sir. My daughter saw something the rest of us didn't, a loop in your input circuit." Every eye turned toward Lily, still sitting in her chair, small and shy, her pencil still in hand. The Admiral's expression softened. "Your daughter?" Ethan nodded, pride welling in his chest. "Yes, sir. Lily Cole. 10 years old. Smarter than her old man." The Admiral looked at the child, then burst out laughing, not mockingly this time, but with sheer amazement. "Well, Miss Cole," he said, walking over and kneeling to her level, "you just saved the Navy a few $1 billion. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small silver insignia, his personal medallion. "I may not have $100 million on me," he said with a grin, "but one day, when you're ready, this will open any door you want." Years later, that same medallion hung in a frame above Lily's desk, beside her engineering degree from MIT, where she graduated top of her class on a full Navy scholarship. When she walked across that stage, Ethan sat in the front row, tears glistening in his eyes, the proudest father in the world. And somewhere in the audience, Admiral Hawkins, now retired, stood and saluted her. Because sometimes the brightest minds don't come from boardrooms or labs. Sometimes they come from the quiet corners, where a single dad sweeps the floors, and a little girl dares to see what others overlook. The years passed, but that one night, the night Lily fixed the unfixable, became a quiet legend inside the Navy's research division. Engineers still whispered about the janitor's daughter, who had saved a $1 billion project with nothing but her wits and curiosity. For Ethan, life slowly changed too. The recognition didn't make him rich, but it gave him something far more valuable: respect. The Admiral personally arranged for Ethan to be rehired as a senior maintenance technician, this time with a badge that said, "Engineer." It wasn't just a title, it was dignity restored. Every day after school, Lily would stop by the workshop. The old sailors and young engineers would gather around, amazed by how naturally she understood things that took them years to learn. Her small hands would trace circuit paths or rewire models, and the room would grow silent as if they were watching something sacred. One rainy afternoon, Admiral Hawkins visited again. His hair had gone gray, but his eyes were sharp as ever. He found Lily sitting at a workbench, building something out of scraps, old ships, broken processors, pieces of copper wire. "What are you making this time, Miss Cole?" he asked with a smile. Lily looked up. "A communication stabilizer, sir. So submarines can talk to each other deep underwater without signals breaking." The Admiral raised his eyebrows. "At your age, I was still trying to fix my bicycle chain." Lily laughed softly. "I like solving things that people say can't be fixed." Hawkins looked over at Ethan, who was leaning against the doorway, pride glowing in his tired eyes. "She's got your determination," the Admiral said quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No, sir. She's got her mother's heart." By the time Lily turned 18, her invention had already caught the attention of a private research firm. They offered her a scholarship and a position on a project developing energy-efficient systems for humanitarian missions. But when she received the offer, she hesitated. Her father noticed it right away. "What's wrong, honey? This is everything you worked for." Lily looked down. "Dad, I don't just want to work on machines. I want to work on people's lives. I want to build things that help." Ethan smiled, tears gathering in his eyes. "That's all I ever wanted you to do, sweetheart." So she turned down the lucrative offer and joined a Navy humanitarian research team, using her designs to power disaster relief drones, rebuild communication systems after hurricanes, and bring clean water to remote villages. One day, while visiting a small coastal town devastated by a storm, Lily met a group of children playing beside a wrecked school. They reminded her of herself at 10, curious, hopeful, and full of dreams. She knelt down and showed them how to repair a broken solar lamp. Within minutes, the light flickered back to life, illuminating their faces in the dusk. One of the little girls whispered, "You're like magic." Lily smiled. "No, sweetheart. I just learned from someone who never gave up on fixing things, and people." Back home, Ethan sat on the porch, watching the sunset with the same mop he'd used years ago, now polished, hanging on the wall like a trophy. He looked up at the stars, whispering softly, "We did it, kiddo." Behind him, Lily's latest invention hummed quietly, a solar-powered generator that lit up their whole neighborhood whenever the power went out. The same neighborhood that once pitted them now looked to them for hope. Epilogue. When Admiral Hawkins passed away a few years later, his will left a handwritten note addressed to Lily. "For the girl who fixed what others couldn't, not just machines but hearts. You reminded me that leadership isn't about rank. It's about believing in those the world overlooks." Inside the envelope was a check, $100 million donated to a foundation she had started, the Fix Foundation, dedicated to teaching underprivileged kids engineering and problem-solving skills. And on the plaque of the foundation's entrance were the words that began it all. "Fix this, I'll give you $100 million. Only this time, it wasn't a joke. It was a promise kept.